Park ranger reveals secret sightings in national park. Have you ever wondered what secrets our national parks hold? Well, today we have a former park ranger who is about to reveal some startling sightings that they were sworn to keep hidden. During their time working for the National Park Service, they discovered something that shook them to their core, and they're here to share it with us. Get ready to hear about creatures that shouldn't exist and the danger they pose to our national parks. So, grab your popcorn and sit back as we dive into the world of park rangers and their secret sightings. I was employed by the National Park Service as an administrative specialist for 3 years, during which time I assisted in organizing government-funded programs and drafting related written documents. Despite not working directly in the great outdoors, I took pride in my work and was good at my job. However, my employment was terminated abruptly 15 months ago due to my discovery of unsettling information. For 8 months, I handled the paperwork for a collaboration between the Science and Research Division of the Park Service and an independent study group. While there were some strange additions to the paperwork, such as liability waivers for Park Service employees, I trusted that the Park Service knew what they were doing and didn't ask too many questions. It wasn't until the injuries began that I started paying attention. I first became aware of the injuries when a ranger returned from the Everglades with a broken leg. This was unusual as the ranger was part of a team documenting the population growth of the Virginia possum. After filing the insurance claim and liability waiver, I discovered that the ranger had been mauled by an animal. As more injuries occurred, I became increasingly concerned about what was really going on with the collaboration between the Park Service and the study group. Upon asking questions, I was reminded of the Virginia possum population growth documentation that was the official position. Despite 3 more attacks occurring over the next 8 months, I kept my suspicions to myself since no one wanted to discuss what was happening in the parks. When the research project ended, I had to give the independent partners original copies of all recorded incidents, which included an unlabeled black folder that I couldn't resist peeking into. I found a document labeled Unidentified Species that detailed 7 new encounters during the research period, which the independent company had kept a secret. The total encounters documented were 12,307, and I couldn't help but wonder why this information wasn't being shared with the community and if the Park Service had been involved from the start. Following that incident, I lost control of my emotions. Any efforts to be subtle were gone, and I opened the folder containing the photographs. While browsing through the collection, which appeared to be screenshots from trail cams, I noticed a Polaroid picture. The images featured creatures I couldn't identify, most of which were mammals. However, due to their speed or the brevity of my glimpses, I was unable to distinguish their species. Suddenly, one of my colleagues from the science and research team slammed the folder shut and spoke to me in a frightened, hushed tone. He instructed me to forget what I saw and escorted me away from the area. Later, I observed him giving the folder and my documents to a member of the independent party. When they apprehended me, I believe they were not just concerned for my safety, but also the risk my newfound knowledge posed to the Park Service. This prospect was terrifying since our government organization had authority over the parks we managed. Subsequently, I was terminated from my position, although I had anticipated being required to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which did not occur. Perhaps the new administrative specialist who took my place overlooked this detail. Can I face repercussions for revealing this information now? I'm aware that these parks have been hazardous for many years, but could my actions place me in danger too? I can still recall that damp, chilly night clearly. The animal control team had summoned me to locate a stray dog roaming a neighborhood near a small cemetery. Although it wasn't unusual for us to handle such calls, people had claimed that the dog was enormous, which made me suspect it could be a wolf rather than a typical canine. Nevertheless, we were instructed to find the dog and take it into custody. This strange suburban town was new to me. I thought we were dealing with a wild dog, even though I could see why the locals would feel threatened by a large dog. My partner and I drove through town, passing family-owned small shops. I couldn't wait to find the animal so we could eat dinner. The candy, ice cream, and pizza shops made me hungry. I decided to return on my day off. We searched the neighborhood after searching the shops. With so many homes surrounded by trees and bushes, it was hard to see. We drove around for an hour and a half, growing frustrated. Finally, fortune smiled. A local resident flagged us down for driving aimlessly. He saw the hound near the South Side Cemetery. The huge animal had pitch black fur and glowing eyes like a deer in headlights. We thanked him for the tip and headed to the cemetery. The burial ground was small but lush like the neighborhood. It got darker, making target hunting harder. Though unusual, my partner and I searched on foot with flashlights, believing we could better explore the bushes and trees. We were afraid of the large creature, as I suspected a wolf put us in danger. I brought whistles and other defenses. Before entering, we circled the cemetery to survey it. We thought the creature left when we didn't see it. On our way back, we saw a dark mass in a street between the neighborhood and the cemetery. The campfire smelled. I alerted my colleague while watching the creature. The mass looked average at first, but when I looked closer, it was lying flat on the ground. My colleague asked if it was a dog, but I couldn't tell from the distance. The mass rose, showing its massive size. As others described, its eyes glowed as it strolled toward the neighborhood and vanished. We had to be careful because the creature seemed intelligent. We followed it into the neighborhood, but it was gone. We saw a large, dark mark where the hound had been sitting. It smelled like burnt wood, but had no animal. Despite being tired and hungry, we had to remove this creature from the streets. We needed help after tracking the animal, which vanished. We returned to the van and summoned another team. They seemed confused, but didn't accuse us of lying when we described the animal. We searched all night and the next day, but couldn't find the hound. My supervisor told us to leave because the animal had likely moved. We weren't called back to find it, so I wondered what happened. I got a 6-month, well-paid law enforcement job after college. I found a furnished apartment with hardwood floors on the top floor of a 3-story building, but my neighbors ignored my introductions. As I walked down the hallway after working late, I saw light and a shadow of feet under my neighbor's door. After hearing the narrator, the hallway residents seemed to be trying to locate the sound. They probably didn't want to socialize since they didn't open the door. The narrator concluded that their neighbor was reclusive and nosy after several weeks of this pattern. The narrator was alarmed by loud noises from the neighboring apartment one evening. They thought their neighbor was having a medical emergency or being attacked because the sounds were unfamiliar. No one answered their knocks on the neighbor's door. The narrator called the police and waited. The officer heard loud noises when he arrived and suggested that squatters may have occupied the empty apartment above the carport. Unlocking the vacant unit required the building manager. Upon entering, it was empty and clean. The officer confirmed that he heard the noises and that the narrator was not imagining things. The narrator noticed the note they had slipped under the door weeks earlier offering to update the neighbor on the noise situation as they left. After a few weeks on the evening shift again, I arrived home at 2 a.m. and saw a light under apartment 306. Next door, I heard thumping. I summoned an officer to contact the building manager. I recognized another officer, and the manager opened the door. The officer entered the apartment and verified that all windows were locked. I tried to explain the noise and apologize, but I couldn't. After a few weeks, the apartment was rented, and I informed the new tenants of my suspicions that squatters were entering. During a station barbecue in my last week, I told the first officer that I saw the light on and heard thumping despite the locked windows. The officer surprised me. He told me he personally answered a suicide call in my neighbor's apartment 3 months before I moved in. The unconscious man hung himself. He panicked, knocking over a chair, lamp, and side table. He died before reaching the hospital. The building manager confirmed that it was their policy not to mention such incidents to new tenants. I'm not sure if knowing beforehand would have helped, but it shocked me. Wow, I hope you enjoyed hearing about these secret sightings in our national parks. It's shocking to think that creatures like these exist, and we had no idea. But now that we do, it's important to remember that these parks are not just a playground for us humans, but they're also home to many wild animals that deserve our respect and protection. So, next time you're out in the great outdoors, keep your eyes peeled, and who knows, maybe you'll spot one of these mysterious creatures for yourself. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content. And if you have any stories of your own, feel free to share them with us in the comments below. We always love hearing from our viewers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.